Good morning, guys, and welcome to the Sky Islands. I'll explain that later, but it is now day 5 of exploring the Badlands, and currently we are here in Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park. This place is absolutely beautiful, and in case you were wondering, no, I didn't get woken up by wild turkey noises, unfortunately. But luckily I did look it up, and this is actually the exact area of the park where they live, down by the lake here. And we started to explore yesterday, but there's so much more to see here, so here's the plan. Alright, so first, we're gonna eat breakfast. So today, we're gonna go for a little bit of a longer hike, probably similar in length to our one at Riding on Stone, which was, again, absolutely incredible. So if you didn't watch that episode, go back and watch it. I highly recommend it. That hike was out of this world, otherworldly, it was crazy. But this park is probably just as beautiful. I mean, we are in the mountains after all. It's nothing like the rest of the Rocky Mountains, but still beautiful nonetheless. So today we're gonna go for some hikes, try to find some lookout spots, which should have a nice view of the Sky Islands. And that leads me to my second point. I'm gonna tell you guys what a Sky Island is and explain that a little bit better. And I'm gonna talk about and maybe try to find some examples of island syndrome. So it's a little bit of a complicated topic, but it's super interesting. So I'll tell you guys about that later. Second, we need to go down to the lake and try to find some wild turkeys. Because as I just said, I looked it up, and that lake is apparently the hotspot for wild turkeys in this park. So that's gonna be fun. Anyways, we have a lot to do today, and if it's clear tonight, we're gonna try and do some stargazing. It was a little smoky last night, even coming in, we couldn't really see the mountains that well. It's really clear right now, so hopefully this stays for tonight. We can do some real stargazing here at the Cypress Hills Dark Sky Preserve. But yeah, a lot to do today, so let's get started. First, I eat breakfast. Today it's sausage, hash browns, eggs, and toast, so yum. Then I admire the view from a campsite. Don't worry, I'm not weird. I'm not watching the garbage can or the playground. I'm looking at that mountain over there. Alright, so it's time to go for a hike. We're going to go on some of the trails that go off into the mountains. There's some different loops and stuff, so we're going to check that out. We'll see if we can maybe make it to some of the viewpoints, but we're also kind of tired after the hike the other day, so we'll see. We also want to go down to the lake and maybe find some wild turkeys, so let's go. So we made it down to the lake. As you can see, across the lake is some of the more rolling hills, more typical of the Badlands rivers. You can see some of the eroded rock in that. But on this side, you see more of the hills that are, well, the mountains of Cypress Hills. So very unique environments, kind of the crossroads between two. And we're gonna keep walking down this trail. I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit more about what makes the Cypress Hills Sky Islands so unique. So yesterday when I arrived here, I mentioned Sky Islands, and the Cypress Hills are a pretty good example of this, or at least the closest example to me. So what is a Sky Island then? Basically, you all know what an island is, right? A piece of land isolated from the mainland. Well, essentially these montane ecosystems are also isolated from the mainland, if you will, or, well, the other mountains, which is the Rockies, which are over 300 kilometers away. So they actually developed environments that are unique to this set of mountains and are different from the other mountains. So they're basically an island in a sea of grass, because it's just the prairies all around us, right? So this is where the majority of the flora and fauna come in from the Cypress Hills, like moose, elk, and cougars, as well as lodgepole pine, which clearly don't grow in the surrounding grasslands. So most of the plant and animals here came from the Rocky Mountains some time ago. So yesterday I also mentioned island syndrome, which that sounds like some sort of sickness or fever you get when you go to an island, but it's actually not. So this topic is a little bit more complicated than just what a sky island is, because it's an island basically in the sky, because it's a random patch of mountains, right? But basically island syndrome is just the different ways that animals will react to living in a more isolated environment than the larger mainland environments where they're used to. And this can take many forms, but I'll tell you guys kind of the main two forms of island syndrome. So the first example of island syndrome I'm going to talk about is insular gigantism. So this is when a species from a mainland, which is in this case the Rocky Mountains, is introduced into a smaller region, either in smaller resources or smaller in land area, which if it's smaller in land area usually is smaller in resources. A good example of this is a bird. So birds are small and agile, they have to be able to fly to escape predators, and so most of the time birds don't get very large. But let's say this small bird gets to an island with no predators and lots of food. Well, then that bird no longer needs to be able to fly and be agile to escape predators, and so they might lose that ability to fly and become larger, and so they'll just get nice and fat. A great example of this is a dodo bird. I'm sure you've heard of it. So millions of years ago, a small African pigeon, yes, a pigeon, flew to the island of Mauritius, liked it because there was lots of food, no predators, and so they stayed. And over millions of years, slowly evolved into the absolute massive bird that we all know as the dodo, which is almost 3 times the size of its closest relatives that are still alive today. But that's just one piece of what island syndrome is. Also, side note, speaking of birds, and large birds at that, this is the perfect spot to be finding wild turkeys. So we're gonna keep looking for wild turkeys. I know they like to roost in some of these trees, these larger deciduous trees. So we're gonna keep looking for wild turkeys. Let's keep going. So before we continue to talk about island syndrome, there's a nice little lookout here. I thought I would talk about this sign here. So this is more talking about the different birds and animals that call these marshlands home, kind of on the edge of the rivers and the lakes here in Cypress Hills. So it's talking about how the plants here provide food, protection, and living space for many animals that can't actually survive in any other environment. So it says during the spring and summer, red-winged blackbirds will nest within the cattails, mallards and blue-winged teals, which is another type of duck, will be flying overhead, and there's tons of dragonflies here, which we've already seen tons of those. There's one right there, and another one there. So yeah, really nice view looking back on the Badlands and the plains, but now we're gonna turn our focus back to the mountains. The other type of island syndrome is the exact opposite of insular gigantism, as it is insular dwarfism. This happens when an animal moves to an island with less food and less resources than their mainland. Take an elephant, for example. A large animal needs tons of resources. If we took that large of an animal and placed it onto an island, well, it's going to grow smaller because there's less resources there. This is actually what happened with many Mediterranean elephants in, well, the Mediterranean. Different types of elephants lived on different islands, and they all grew smaller and adapted to their new environments. All of these different types of elephants are now extinct, unfortunately, but they're still a very good example of insular dwarfism. So now I should be clear that all of these changes take millions of years to happen. And the Cypress Hills have only been uncovered for around 15,000 years, hardly enough time for major substantial speciation to occur. But that doesn't mean there isn't signs of early island syndrome taking place with some of the flora and fauna here. All right, we found some Saskatoon berries here on the trail. You are actually allowed to pick these, and they're very sweet, very tasty, kind of like a blueberry, but a little bit different. Pretty good here. Just another example of some of the many different plants and animals that live here, and nowhere else, kind of just on the prairies and that. So really tasty treat, nice to see here. So let's keep going. All right, so we just crossed the road. We're heading back up into the mountains towards our campsites, but I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about the animals that may or may not be experiencing some form of island syndrome here on our way to what I think is called Cougar Ridge Lookout. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. Let's get going. So the first animal I came across in my research was these snails that live in these isolated montane environments here in Cypress Hills in Montana and South Dakota, I believe. So this is the Black Hills mountain snail. I couldn't actually find a ton of info on these species, but apparently they were once a subspecies of another type of snail, but they're actually now classified as their own unique species. So they exhibit smaller shells than the other snails, which is why they're reclassified. So I think that's a pretty good evidence for some sort of speciation due to being isolated in these mountains. Some of the most notable animals of this region are the deer, which again, I found some difficulty finding any information on this region in regards to insular dwarfism and gigantism, and really any form of island syndrome, but I did find some evidence to suggest that there's some early forms of it. So the white-tailed deer here appear to be slightly smaller than the provincial average, but they're a pretty large animal, so they can just leave the hills if they really want to, but for the most part, they're gonna stay here where there's more food. So they are slightly smaller than the average, but again, it's not really that big of a difference. But here's the really big part. As I said, I think yesterday, this is the easternmost breeding population of cougars in the country. So they were hunted to extinction, but later repopulated in the 1990s. Again, some studies show that there might be a slight decline in the size of the cougars here, but there really isn't enough evidence to back it up. So the cougars' isolation more heavily influences their behavior, and that's because it forces them to live in a much smaller, more concentrated area, and there's going to be some genetic inbreeding between the few individuals that live here, but more studies are needed to gather more information. And some studies show that they might be more afraid of humans here, but again, there's not that much information here. So hopefully we don't find any cougars to find out, but we are almost at the Cougar Ridge viewpoint, so let's keep going. All right, so we've made it here to Cougar Ridge. This is definitely quite the view. And there's actually another view on the other side, which we'll check out in a second. But this is really nice. The road is just down there, so it actually wasn't even that far. But right here, there's also this giant rock. I told you guys there was some stuff it had in common with the Badlands that we were seeing the last couple of days. So random rocks like these are just eroded parts of the mountain, right? It's just, well, it's part of the mountain. So really cool. You can see tons of different lichens growing on this, different ants, different bugs. Definitely a big keystone, unintended, of the ecosystem where lots of animals will come and just get nutrients that maybe they can't get in the winter or in other dry times of the year. And here's the other half of the viewpoint. Absolutely stunning. I don't think the camera picks this up as well as it does in real life, but you can see all the mountains going off into the distance. This is beautiful. And I think here I'm going to talk about the final animal that I think may have experienced some sort of speciation here in Cypress Hills. So this animal is one of the reasons I've come here. I've been talking about since I arrived here, and it is the wild turkey. It might seem silly, but I've always wanted to see a wild turkey. And they were introduced here in Cypress Hills in 1962 from South Dakota, I believe, and they have adapted well to this environment. And there's some behavioral changes that may have occurred just because of adapting to their environment, but it isn't quite speciation. So it's, again, too early to tell. They've only been here for about 60 years-ish, so too early to tell, but nonetheless, very interesting to take a look at some of the early forms of this super rare process. So we were just hiking here, and I would look down and notice all of these little shells just all over the trails. One there, one there, one there, a couple over there. And I was really confused. I was like, are these fossils maybe? But they don't look very old. They just are here. I'm not going to touch them because, I mean, it is a provincial park. Shouldn't really be damaging things. I don't want a chance to damage things. I'm not trying to, but anyways, I'm not going to touch them. But we can definitely look at them. And so my guess is that these shells might actually be from those Black Hills mountain snails that I was talking about earlier. I'm going to do some more research on these. These are really cool. And I'll do like a voiceover segment next, kind of talking about more research that I did into these on what these actually are. But that's just my guess, so we'll see if I'm right. So I think we're gonna head back to camp now. We kind of finished up our hike. We accidentally went back in the wrong direction, so we just have to go all the way back around, but we're all really hot and tired. So we're gonna go back to camp, get some water, maybe get a snack, and then I think we'll do some more hiking tonight when it's a little bit cooler out. So I'll see you guys back at camp. Alright, so we made it back to camp now. It was very hot earlier, so we just had like a rest for about an hour. We got some water and some snacks. We did about 10 kilometers today, which is insane. And that was a really beautiful hike. I don't think it tops riding on stone, but it was really nice. Anyways, I haven't showered in a couple days, and it's really hot outside. Actually, it's cooled off now, but it was really hot earlier. We were all sweating. So I'm going to go to the shower house, have a nice shower, and then come back here and do supper, I think, and then maybe we'll go for another hike tonight. Let's go. Alright, back from my shower now. My hair is still kind of wet, so I'll just wait for that to dry. Anyway, in the meantime, we're going to get supper started, and I think this is the first time we're actually having supper at like a decent hour this whole week. So, time lapse. Alright guys, so we finished supper, we made a fire, we had pork chops and some vegetables and rice. It was really good. Now we're going to, whoa, that is not very stable. Anyways, now we're going to go and we're going to try and find some wild turkeys. I think they like to come out at this time. I don't really know, but we're going to find some turkeys. So guys, I'm actually outside the visitor center here, which is closed. We were going to go to it today, but it was kind of busy earlier, so we just went for that walk instead. So we're actually going to go to it in the morning tomorrow before we leave. And apparently there's a second story to their museum here. Yes, please. But there's some signs here that I want to kind of talk about before we go find the turkeys. So there's a map here that kind of shows the Canadian Badlands. I mean, it literally says Canadian Badlands, this whole shaded in region, which perfectly shows what I'm trying to prove with this whole series. That the Badlands aren't just the dry valleys in, where is it, Interprovincial Park where we went the other day, or in Writing on Stone. They're regions that are full of life and animals and plants and water and everything. So it just shows this whole region is called Badlands. But most people think it's just the river valleys with the coulees and the hoodoos and stuff. But it's not. Even Cypress Hills here is actually part of the Badlands, according to this. Even though it's usually lumped in with the Rocky Mountain region, like on maps and stuff. But nonetheless, it is definitely a very cool part of the Badlands. There's some different things that shows you can do in the region, but we're actually not really doing anything. We went to Medicine Hat. That's where I kind of picked up some stuff. Bow Island. That's where we went to Tim Hortons, and apparently there's a giant potato there.
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it? Okay. But, yeah. Like, tons of stuff to do here. Stargazing. It is clear for the most part right now. There is quite a few clouds in the sky. But, so hopefully it'll be clear for tonight, because I really do want to do some stargazing at a dark sky preserve. But our next location that we're going to tomorrow usually has really clear skies as well. So, should be good there. But also here, explore the Canadian Badlands. Canadian Badlands, Interprovincial Park, Writing on Stone / Asinapi. Remember, there's the two names, the Indigenous and the English name. Then also Cypress Hills. So, I guess I chose some good locations. Or I guess my parents did, but I suggested coming here because I wanted to come here for many reasons, including finding wild turkeys. So let's go start that. Alright guys, so we're going down this trail called the Turkey Trot. I don't know about you, but that sounds kind of promising. We're going to connect up to a trail called the Beaver Creek Loop, I think is what it's called. It's about 1.5 kilometers, so it'll be like a couple that'll be like, I don't even know, like probably like half an hour. So that's pretty good. But the turkey trot, let's go see if we can find any trotting turkeys. Yeah, guys, I don't know. I'm not finding any trotting turkeys out here. It's a very nice trail, though. Really pretty. Kind of spooky going up this way. Lots of weird trees. Looks pretty cool, though. All right, let's keep going. Check this out, guys. Like, this is crazy terrain. Like, there's mountains through the trees, and I think we're actually going up a mountain because you can see a road way down there, and this all the way up here. Like, but still no turkeys. Still, absolutely beautiful. The turkeys do like this more open areas with some of the berries, though, so this is promising. But yeah, we're gonna have to keep looking. That's crazy. Guys, there's a deer up there. So we have found one animal. I don't know if you can see it on camera. That's so cool. Hi. That's so cool. You know where the turkeys are? Oh, I think that's a no. Okay, well, that deer was no help. Alright, bye, Mrs. Deer. We'll see you. I don't know, some other time. I was just thinking about it, guys. I've seen so many videos of deer within turkey flocks. And if we're on a trail called the Turkey Trot, there might be some turkeys nearby if there's that deer. Because I think they eat similar things, the berries and nuts and stuff. So hopefully that's true. Hurts me up that tree. I think it's a squirrel. I actually forgot. Wild turkeys can fly. Farm turkeys can't fly. Wild turkeys can. And I haven't been looking in the trees at all. Oh, you have? Okay. I haven't been. That's kind of bad on my part. But there's a split in the trail up here, so we're going to take the Beaver Creek Loop. It's a little bit shorter because it's getting dark. So maybe we'll find some beavers. Apparently there's a whole bunch of beaver dams along that trail, so that should be cool. Yeah, and if there's water, maybe there's turkeys. That's a good point there. Also, guys, if you don't know who my cameraman is, say your handle.
Watermelon Hockey 72.
Go subscribe to him. He's got to get something from being my cameraman this whole trip, so go subscribe to him. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Turkey, come out, wherever you are. The chat, does that sound like a turkey? Does it actually sound like a turkey? I don't even know what a turkey really sounds like. I don't even know if I've ever seen a turkey. Like, even like on a farm. I don't even know if I've like seen one. Yo, what? I think that's deer prints. That's a dog. Or maybe it's a coyote. But one thing I know is that's not a cougar, because cat prints don't have claws. Dog prints do. So any really big prints without claws is a cat, which means, well, it's a cougar, because who the heck brings a cat camping? Especially if it's a really big print, then we just know it's a cougar. And at that point, we probably just turn around, because I don't really want to run into a cougar, but at the same time, I kind of do. That'd be kind of cool, but yeah. No, I think there's another deer down there. Right there. There's another deer. Yeah, it just moved. Hi, deer. I think it's just hiding from us. We should just leave it be. Oh, I think it's turkeys. Like squawking up there. I think I actually did. Hold up, there might be turkeys up there. Okay, there's a trail that kind of goes up there. We gotta go up there. I think there's turkeys up there. Guys, this view is crazy. Mountains back there. How high up we are. We're not even all the way up to where we heard those sounds. Oh, this trail is so windy. And you see the way we took up. Well, there's a deer way down there. It's so hard to see. All right, where are you going? All right, so we're getting very close to the top of the hill here. Just, I think, one more loop, maybe. Oh, wait, there's a road up there. There's that car go past. But this is super cool looking down into this like ravine. We're literally at the top of some of these super tall trees, which is absolutely insane. I don't know how high up we are, but we're pretty high up, so this is really cool. It's starting to get dark though, so we're gonna have to hurry up. Guys, check this out. This view is crazy. Look at this. You can literally hear the creek down there. That's so cool. I think we're gonna kind of keep walking a little bit this way, but it is getting dark, so we're gonna have to stop filming for now. We're actually gonna not be able to do the Beaver Creek loop. It's a little bit farther away than we expected. The trail itself is only about 1 kilometer. What do you see?
The lake.
Oh, you can't see the lake.
Maybe turkey?
I don't know. We probably should start heading back. It's starting to get dark, and I still want to do some stargazing on those trips, so we're gonna have to get going back. So, yeah. That's too bad that we couldn't get any turkeys, but we still have the trip back, so if we don't find any turkeys in the next shot, I'll be back at the campsite. But if we do find turkeys, the next shot will be turkeys. So, oh, there's a bat. It just flew away. Alright, well, let's go back. Alright, so we're back at camp now. It's starting to get dark, and yes, it is actually clear tonight. So we will be able to do some stargazing here at the Dark Sky Preserve in Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park. I'm hearing tons of weird noises out here in the woods. Different animals and birds and moaning. I don't know what that is, but it's very lively here at night. It's clear. The stars are starting to come out. We're going to go play some cards, and then once it gets really dark out, then we'll turn all the lights off and we'll bring out the telescope. So I'm excited. We're just going to rest for a bit. I'll see you guys in probably like an hour.
8, 9, 14. Boom. People counting you have too many cards because night.
Alright guys, so there is a storm moving in. There's even lightning over here. So we're going to get a thunderstorm tonight, which, I mean, I don't know if that's really a good thing, but not a good thing for our stargazing. So we're going to do it right now. It is actually very dark here, which, I mean, it is a dark sky preserve, so it's probably supposed to be dark. But I'm just going to point out a couple notable constellations before the storm gets here, and I'll show you guys some pictures of them because I don't think they're going to show up on video. But first off, right up here, we have the Big Dipper, obviously, part of Ursa Major, which is much larger. Also right here, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, it's like Booties or something. Super bright orange star right here is Arcturus, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'm not really good with the pronunciation of stuff. I should probably look that up before I come out here and talk. But I'll just put the text right here, that way you guys can see. And right in the middle of them is Canes Verticani or something. It's the hunting dogs. There's 2 stars there. Booties is actually the hunter with the hunting dogs chasing Ursa Major, the great bear, around the celestial pole, which is like the North Star Polaris in the Little Dipper, which is also right up there. We actually just saw a meteor as well. It was bright orange, went right across the sky. It was absolutely beautiful. And currently, there is a Perseid's meteor shower originating from over here near where Perseus, but also Cassiopeia. It peaks over the next couple days, so that'll be exciting to see, especially on our next location, which should have pretty clear skies. And then finally, to top everything off, is a summer triangle, basically straight overhead. You can see the Milky Way bands in Cygnus, and we're not going to do it today, but we would be able to see the Ringed Nebula in Lyra there, and then you can see all the beautiful stars here. I don't even know if those are showing up on video. Anyway, we can see some of the clouds moving in there, so that's too bad. Our time's going to be cut short. But we did get to see some of the best skies I've ever seen. This is absolutely beautiful here. We're going to keep watching for more meteors, and if we spot any, I'll show you guys the video. If not, then I'll see you guys in a couple minutes for the outro. Okay, I've been informed that constellation is pronounced, wait, how is it? How was it? Boötes. So the hunter there is Boötes. It did say it was a hunter, right? What? Alright, so yeah, it was a hunter. I was right about that part. Yeah, Boötes. That's what that was, not booties. Otherwise, then Arcturus would just be the blood of booties. Okay, I'm done now. Let's just, yeah. I'm tired. Yeah. Alright, so that storm is basically right above us now. The moon is out. Looks really cool right behind me there. I've been told it's just like above my head up here somewhere. Like that? I'm holding the moon, I'm told. Oh, that's cool. Alright. Well, that storm is basically here. There's some lightning and thunder. I was gonna say in the distance, but it's not. It's literally like right here. But today's been a super fun day, going for the hike, seeing the lake, and we trying to find wild turkeys, but we didn't find any, unfortunately. Maybe we'll find some tomorrow, but that was a super fun night. We got to see some meteors, got to do some stargazing, although it was only for like half an hour, but still, that was really fun. I hope you guys had fun exploring the Cypress Hills with me. And I haven't asked you guys yet, but if you're enjoying this series and you've watched every episode, just subscribe. Like, I don't know. I haven't asked for some reason. I usually ask at the end of every video, but it just hasn't really felt right to ask. But if you are enjoying it, you can. If not, I mean, that's fine too. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the morning. We are going to go to the visitor center here in the morning. And again, there's 2 stories to the museum there, so I'm excited for that. But tomorrow, we go to a new destination, and I'm super excited about it. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Good night.